You know, many people are waiting in life for government or somebody to come save them. You know, conditions are never quite right. They don't quite ever have permission. And, you know, like this desert, it just doesn't seem like you could, you know, create the life you want in the circumstances. But I would like to suggest that, in fact, you can do much more. You just have to take what you do have and put it to use. And if you need skills, you get those skills. You know, Jeff Lawton in the Greeting the Desert project has a project reaching maturity now, and it's quite productive in a place that gets virtually no rain. You know, out here we got beautiful views. Unfortunately, we still have some trash, some pond liner we haven't quite cleaned up, but we've put in a system here to use what we had. You know, we had to buy some used and damaged water tanks because that's what we could afford. We had to put in a water line from our little settlement down the property to where there's a windmill well, and then all the way back here, just almost half a mile of line. And you know, we couldn't afford to do two lines, even though that would have been ideal to have separate lines. We didn't have to turn valves on. But we took what we had, and we took it as we had it, and we built these systems. And in the desert, the core system that we needed was water, because we're going to be growing all of our own food. We're going to be establishing our own fruit trees. And all of this requires quite a bit of water, but not groundwater, because out here there's no aquifer, not really, and there's no quality water. It's all salty. But if you look at this, we scraped in a berm here, and we had to save up, and then we paid a guy to come out when he was in the area, so we got a discount. And basically, our entire land slopes, even though it looks level, at about 2%, maybe even 1%. I think it's 8 inches over nearly a quarter mile. But it's enough that when the rain comes, the water runs down here. And as you see by all these flowers, we're already establishing the desert into something that's very beautiful, and it's beginning to, you know, grow biomass and grass and roots, and all of this stuff is enriching the soil to actually create fertile soil. And eventually we'll be able to plant fruit trees down this entire swell. But its primary function at this time is to take this water running off of one side of our land and bring it to these ponds. You know, this is a very silty area that wouldn't contain soil, so we had to put a liner in here. And rather than spend the money on a very expensive pond liner, we went to a oil-filled containment liner manufacturer, and we got a really good deal on some quality high-strength liners to contain water. And look at all this growth. This is just all new growth just because we've disturbed the soil and started capturing water. This whole area is kind of bermed up, so this entire area floods, and that's what's driving the fertility of all this beauty. But basically, one pond fills up, there's a channel, flows into another, and with just a half an inch downpour, you know, rain coming all at once, we get 26,000 gallons of water. We then pump it up into these two used tanks. This black one was a used tank we got a good deal on, 3,000 gallons. The other one's a 2,600 gallon tank that was damaged and broken, but we were able to heat weld it back together, and we got a really good deal on it. We basically got two tanks for the price of one, and it was a sacrifice to get, but we just did it as we had it, as we could. We applied everything to it. We used, you know, delayed gratification, and we saved, and we got it done. So don't think it's all or nothing. And this little board here with this car battery has a charge controller underneath the bucket to charge the battery to the correct voltage using a solar panel that currently is just laid in the dirt, but it gets the job done for the moment till we get some steel down here. It charges the battery, and we have a pressure switch to regulate this so that if we cut the water line off at the far end, it'll shut the pump off instead of damaging it. And this whole setup is made portable so that we can pump the water out of one pond, and then we can pull the pump out and kind of scoot this over and throw the whole thing in the other pond. And once we've used up all the water in the ponds, then we throw the pump in the top of one of these tanks. And basically that 6,000 gallons alone is enough for us to have a garden for one person by using a combination of a wicking bed and an aquaponics system to get the best of all worlds in a desert climate where we could minimize evaporation, maximize production, and drive fertility, not with, in our case, fish, but duck poop. Oddly enough, if you were to use your own urine, it provides enough fertility to grow the food for one person, or dang close to it. So you see, we've basically got it working, and you know, as other situations come into control and we get our life more in order, we're going to be putting down more infrastructure. You know, we'll get this solar panel up on a proper mountain off the ground. We'll get a better setup here, or maybe we'll get a more permanent setup and get it all piped together and automate it. But for now, it's good enough. Our 26,000 gallons of water that comes several times a year, because it only takes half an inch, fills these up, and then we store our water. And we've even learned now, like in Australia, you can use a goat panel type wire. It's a little bit like cattle panel. You can get it at all your box stores, and you just basically put high density polyethylene inside of it, weld it up, and you have an ugly but very cheap tank. We're going to be building a 30,000 gallon tank down here, and it's going to probably run us about $5,000 total. So we're saving for that currently. But back to the pump system, you know, we have to have a water filter, and we use these plastic filters. They're a pleated polyester filter because, you know, we need a filter that we can wash out and reuse frequently, because as you see, you know, between the mud and the animals visiting the water, it gets a lot of algae in it, and not to mention the clay and all the silt that gets in here. So we filter that out so we don't plug up our lines, and then we pipe it down. Goes in the ground there, makes the trek by the well so that we can switch over to well water if we have to, which is salty, so we have to reverse osmose it. And then it goes up for our family use. So we're not dependent only on the rainfall. We're making use of, you know, the water catchment, I should say, and we're making use of rainfall off the ground. This way we don't have to build massive roofs and such. It just needs more filtration and more care. And if you grow moringa trees, a small number of moringa seeds blended into powder and thrown in even this mucky, nasty looking algae water will actually deactivate all the viruses and bacteria. It will coagulate and settle out every single thing in the water to where the water is perfectly clear and safe. So with a dual tank system, we can pump the water up there, and we can, after filtering it, add moringa seed and have perfectly clean and clear water, so much superior to the well water. So my point in all this is that, you know, even though circumstances are not perfect in your life, consider the fact that you can take what you got and you can make it good enough. You know, the Tiny Giant Life idea, you know, kind of started with tiny houses, you know, something people can do. And it enables you to then build a giant lifestyle. In other words, you can have a living retirement lifestyle right now. You don't have to wait till you retire. You can travel. You can free up your money. It makes it very easy when you have no bills to be able to put together a simple online business, which we also teach, and create more than enough income to be able to travel and live the way you want to. And don't think that you've got to have the perfect land, because, you know, there's no such thing as perfect. Everything, including your life, is what you make of it. So that's what I'm encouraging you to do. And if these things interest you, if you're interested in attending a workshop where you learn hands-on how to put down a foundation, do plumbing, engineer AirCrete, do heat load calculations to size and install your air conditioning, as well as do electrical, design solar power systems and rainwater catching, learning how to do cast earth houses, passive designs, and grow all of your own food, then click the link in the description or over in the profile and come check us out.